As you heard in the clip, in this previous clip, he was the SADC chair of the organ of politics as well as security. But in addition to that, he was also the African Union chair. And during the time of Zimbabwe's crisis, he headed the African Union when there was a call for ZANU-PF as well as the MDC to form a government of national unity. And so really clearly his influence was at AU level as well as at SADC level. What we saw as well as the SADC chair, he assisted in terms of the implementation of SADC protocols in Madagascar, and has also had a role in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo conflict, but not just in SADC, but also in East Africa with the Burundi crisis. Tanzania has taken a lead role in terms of trying to resolve not just the humanitarian crisis, but also to ensure that there's some kind of a mediation process between the warring political parties in Burundi.
Now, Tanzania is well known throughout the African continent for its peaceful elections and problem-free transfer of power. Now, with this election coming up being hotly contested, can we expect more of the same, and how is this being seen in the region?
Well, at this stage, despite the tensions between the ruling party as well as the coalition of four parties that are contesting against the ruling party for the presidential seat, there have been some tensions, some suspicions about from the opposition about or claims that this vote will be rigged. But really, at this stage, there hasn't been any indication that there will be violence. You'll probably know that Zanzibar is a semi-autonomous region, has its own president and parliament, and there have been flashes of violence over the successive elections in that part of the country. And so there is an expectation that in that area, elections will be hotly contested. As you said, Tanzania has been able to, since 1992, when it introduced multi-party democracy, it's been able to ensure a smooth transition. So far, the presidents have come from the ruling party, but really what they're saying now is that this is the most hotly contested election, and that the opposition has increased its influence, and some opinion polls suggesting that the opposition could win. So really there is that tension that still exists, but there's really no indication that there will be a flare-up of violence on the mainland.
And Shingai, you were touching on the issue of the peace process in Burundi. Now, with President Jakaya Kikwete about to leave office, do you think Tanzania will still have that central role in peace building in Burundi?
Well, it continues to have a central role, but among the East African community in that particular group, what has happened now is that Uganda has taken over the role of mediating this particular conflict on behalf of the EAC, but clearly Tanzania, as well as the United Nations, do have a role to play. So really at this stage, it's not expected that any major disruptions in terms of what the United Nations is trying to achieve in Burundi.
And quickly, before we leave you, Shingai, you will be heading out to Tanzania for the coverage of those elections. What can we expect from your reports?
Well, the SABC is sending out 3 teams to Tanzania. We have the East Africa Bureau, headed by Sarah Kimani, which will be providing a perspective on Tanzania's relations or the impacts of these elections on the East Africa community. Obviously, we will be there as well, giving a SADC perspective. And the South African team with Sophie Kwena Vyomvoko will be there as well, looking at the relations between Tanzania and South Africa, and we will be providing live broadcasts from Morogoro, which, as you know, was an ANC base, and also the rural perspective of Tanzania's rural voters in this critical election. And so we'll be in Dar es Salaam, we'll also be, which is the commercial capital, as well as in Zanzibar. So really we'll be providing a holistic coverage of this particular election.
Well, thank you so much, and we hope to speak to you from there. That was our Zimbabwean correspondent, Shingai Nyoka, speaking to us live from Harare.